Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about burnout, and this is something that I've had to deal with many years ago. And even as my journey on in my entrepreneurial journey, as I had started my business, I've fallen into the trap of being burnt out, and not even just in business, but as I was serving in the church as well as I was leading in church. Yeah, from experience and from how God has taught me how to manage that, I want to share that with you today. So, today I'm going to be sharing my 5 ways to avoid burnout and how you can reduce stress. So, especially during this time of the year, we're heading towards Christmas now. We're in the last quarter of the year. So many things are going on, even with the pandemic and all of these things that we've had to pivot and adjust, right? The stress levels can get up there. It goes up there and you're like, oh, how do I deal with this? And with so many things to do, we don't want to burn out. We actually want to manage this well. So statistics actually say that nearly 2/3 of full-time workers are dealing with burnout at some point while at work. So most of us are dealing with burnout, and sometimes we don't even know we're dealing with it. We don't even know how to manage it. So wanted to hop on here today to help you with that. And for some of you who might not be familiar with burnout is a form of emotional exhaustion. And so, as I said, it develops gradually, and sometimes you don't even notice it, and it's hard to identify. And it's sort of this feeling where you're constantly stressed and you're always running on adrenaline, and you've got this feeling of fight or flight where you're I've got to get these things done. You've got a list of things to do. It's piling up. You're overwhelmed. You've got lots of things to do, and you're stressing all the time. And yeah, you're just feeling like, maybe I would describe it as when you're feeling like everything is coming all at once, and you're underwater and you're just trying to paddle up and you get a bit of air, right? So that's how I would explain it. But really, yeah, burnout is a form of emotional exhaustion when you're really exhausted and you're always under stress. And some symptoms of burnout is when you're really tired and you've got fatigue, and you just don't want to get out of bed anymore. And maybe you've loss of sleep even, and you can't sleep at night when you're always up at night, and you just find it hard to sleep. You might have even high anxiety rate, where you're always worried and you're anxious about what's going on. You actually have fear. And then also loss of optimism, where you're just thinking, oh, it's not going to work out, and it's not your usual self. You're actually not your usual self because you're so tired. And this actually happens for at any point in time when you're really stressed out. So that's what happens. And before I go on, if you're new in here in my video, and it's the first time that we're meeting here, my name is Fideliz Cruz. I'm a Christian life and business coach, and I love helping women discover all of the things that light them up to create a life and business that they love. So here's my 5 ways on how to avoid burnout and reduce your stress. Number 1, we need to prioritize rest in God. So like Jesus, we want to use Jesus as an example. His first priority was really his intimacy with his father, with his Abba Father. And so he often went off into extended times of solitude, and he wanted to be in silence and pray on his own. And he wanted to just pray and go and ask God and ask his father what to do. He was just having that solitude, that silence to pray and be in intimate moment with his God, with his father. And so we want to be like that. We want to prioritize rest in God. And that was his number one thing. First things first is prioritizing God and resting in him, and everything else just followed. Everything else was secondary, and it was secondary to that. His ministry, his family, all of these things, and the way that he served actually flowed out of this personal abiding in God. And that's what we want to do. We want to come from that place of surrender and rest in God before we even hop hop on and do all of those works. So even on Sundays, right? Sundays are Sabbath. So, even Jesus, he wanted us to do that, right? God wanted us to rest as well and take that one day off. So let's be like that. Let's learn from Jesus and follow his example of resting and prioritizing God first and resting in Jesus, right? The next thing, number 2, is we need to set healthy boundaries. We don't want to have an overload of activity and commitment all on our schedule. It might look like, yeah, it's just being busy, really. It's just trying to put all of these things in your schedule so you're busy and you feel like you're doing something, but really not being productive. And we need to set healthy boundaries. So first, we need to ask the Lord for wisdom in planning our involvement in that schedule, and saying, God, what do you want this schedule to look like? How can I, what are the important things that I really need to focus on and not be distracted on these little things? So we need to set some time to pray about our schedule and ask the Lord for wisdom in it. And also being free to say no when people ask you to get involved in things that it's not really in line with where God is calling you. So being aware of that and just saying, it's okay to say no when people do ask you. And when maybe there's opportunities in front of you, you don't necessarily have to say yes, right? So plan to have empty spaces in your diary and schedule rest time for yourself. Schedule time for the Lord, schedule time for yourself and for your family. You've got to put them in there and actually, block it on your calendar, because you're prioritizing that time, right? Time is so valuable, and we don't want to just get caught up looking busy. We want to be productive and intentional and purposeful with our time. Third, ask for help. Oftentimes we just want to take it on, like, we feel like we've got to get everything done on our own, and you don't have to do that. We can ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. So we need to learn to delegate our task. If you could, maybe you're really tired and you feel like, oh, it's a Sunday, it's time to mow the lawn, and I could do that, or should I spend time with my family? Well, which one is priority? What should you be doing? And you could find someone to delegate that task to, so you can do what matters, right? You can actually focus on what actually matters. And in terms of work, think about that too. Like, stay focused on the main task that God has called you to do. And if there are little things that you could delegate them, give them to someone else that could do that, so you can focus on what God has actually called you to do, right? So ask for help so you're not going to get burnt out. Number 4, remind yourself what's at stake. And if you burn out, what's going to happen? So remind yourself why you actually need to do this. We need to realize that, if we continue this, working like this and not having rest, we're going to burn out, and that it's actually going to, affect our work. It's going to affect the quality of service that we're going to give others. We're not going to give them 100%. You'll burn out, and you're not fun to be around. People don't want to be around you because you're easily irritable. You get angry easily, right? And you make mistakes as well because you're rushing everything, and you probably make more mistakes when you're rushing. And so, in the process, it's actually not good if we burn out. So we need to remind ourselves that there is some things at stake if we continue this behavior. If we continue doing that, if we continue to try to do it on our own, and try to say yes to every single thing, and not focus on what we need to do, then we're going to burn out. And we're not, if we're not if we're not delegating, if we're trying to do it on our own, we're going to burn out. And there's some things at stake if we continue to do that. So we get easily angry, easily irritable. People don't want to be around us, and we're not really giving them 100%, right, when we're in this state. So remind yourself of that and what's at stake if you do burn out and you don't want it. So that's number 4. Number 5, know your capacity and your pace. You've got your own capacity, you've got your own pace. And sometimes it happens where you try to look at someone and you're going, oh gosh, she's going so fast, she's doing so well, and you try to, you know, keep up with other people's pace and how they're growing and their own growth, their own journey. You know what? You've got your own pace, you've got your own growth and your capacity. What is that? Think about it, you know, and learn about your own capacity. And don't forget, you know, that God has a Kairos moment. It's his opportune time, and he is in control of your timeline. So you don't have to rush. You don't have to, you know, compare yourself to other people's um, pace and how they're going, but just focus on yours, your pace and your capacity, and work under your capacity, right? So and those are the 5 ways you can you know, reduce stress and avoid burnout. That's 5 ways that, you know, I've learned over the years to start thinking about, so that I don't end up being burnt out again. Thank God, you know, this is something that's still obviously that I'm learning, and I continue to learn, you know, as I grow, and as God helps me through this journey. He teaches me all the time. But you know what? I'm getting better. And when I, you know, sometimes I do burn out, and then the distance between that to when I next burn out, it gets longer and longer. So I am learning. I'm not, you know, I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect, and this is something that I'm still dealing with. But these are what I've learned so far, and so I wanted to share them with you. And yeah, so we've got the freedom to make those decisions, and I love that God has given us this gift of life where we have freedom of choice. We have the freedom to decide on what we want to do and how we want to prioritize our life. And so we need to keep ourselves the best way possible, keep yourself in the best possible shape or state, you know, physically, spiritually, emotionally, so that we can serve the Lord most effectively and continuously as well. So we need to continue to burn bright for him, not burn out, burn bright. And so I encourage you today to have a look at these 5 ways of how you can avoid burnout, so you don't get to that state. And yeah, and just encourage you to really go back to the Lord in surrender and allow him to really orchestrate your life and business for you. Have a lovely day. Bye.